confidence, here's what they found. Confidence levels have dropped in February from January, and it's the lowest Glassdoor level. So when they've been, and by the way, I'm not giving you the number. It says 45%. It's dropped to 45%, so 100% would be we're very confident, but that's not the issue. The issue is it's continuing to drop, and now they've hit an all-time low. And so where is confidence dropping? The biggest group is middle managers. And the reason is there is a trend right now in corporate America, and I would suggest it's probably in small business America as well, and that is we've got to do more with less. So we're coming out of a business environment where for about 2 years, if you haven't heard the term the Great Resignation, what that meant was we were seeing over 4 million people a month change jobs. And it was just this big musical chairs. If you remember that game from elementary school, right? We're all going around the chairs, and when the music stops, and that was happening. And so as a result of that, now that's not happening in the job market. People aren't just leaving all the time and leveling up and getting 12, 15, 20% hikes in their salary or hourly rate. That was happening for a while. That slowed down. So now companies are going, we're paying more than we've ever paid for. Because folks, listen to this. I don't know what you know about inflation, and I know you hear different things all the time. I want to be a man of the people and break it down for you in a really simple way. Here's what you need to know. Wages, hourly wages and salaries increased dramatically over the last 2 years. You don't feel it as much because so has gas and groceries. So you'll hear, if you watch any of this stuff, inflation and wage earning, inflation's going up higher than wages are going up. And so while you're making more, it doesn't feel like you're making more because you're actually netting out not making more. Right. So I get you're there. All right. Now watch. So now companies, because they had to pay more, their expenses are at all-time high. And now that the job switching market has cooled, companies are now pulling back, and they're going, we lost a bunch of positions here. Instead of filling those, we're going to try to make do. Key point, we'll come back to that. Okay. So what's happening is middle managers are under a lot of pressure. What are some pressures that you are facing? Layoffs. When executives up here, up top, make decisions to lay people off, guess who has to execute on it? Middle managers. That sucks. It's one of the worst things that you have to do as a leader is to fire somebody. I've done it. It sucks. It's awful. The other thing is new mandates on new systems, new policies, as we are in an increasingly litigious society where people are suing and companies are always worried about stuff. We got DEI stuff. You got all kinds of stuff floating around all the time. So there's all this new stuff, and it comes from up top, many times by lawyers who are trying to protect executives. Executives go, all right, here's what we're going to do. And they don't really talk to you, middle managers, about executing on it and what it actually means for you. They just tell you got to do it, and you figure it out. That's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And we already have reported on this on the show recently, that performance reviews, the annual review is going to go the way of the graveyard. And I think you're going to start seeing more intense one-on-ones and more pressure coming, and managers have to figure that out. And they got to navigate that. That's a real communication issue. Mid-level employees, like middle managers, have seen their confidence levels drop most severely in the past year, falling from 54% in February of 23 to 48% in February of 24, and now the March numbers are 45%. So this is something to pay attention to. And there's a lot of you that are in this boat, and I'm trying to inform you, inspire you, encourage you. So what does this mean if this is happening to you? Well, what it means is you're going to see burnout, because when somebody is squeezed all the time, top, bottom up, top down, bottom up, squeeze, 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 you get to a point where you go, I can't do this anymore. And so what happens is organizationally, they opt out. And guess what? Somebody has to replace them. Sometimes it's not from the outside. So now the squeeze gets tighter and tighter and tighter, more and more pressure. And you can see then how this can really erode a culture of an organization. So, middle managers also sometimes at high risk of being laid off themselves because of where they sit. Well, we'll take out the middleman. We need somebody on the ground, so we're going to remove that leadership position, and I'll come down from my ivory tower and my executive tower. And so they're at risk too. So now they're worried about getting cut themselves. The cuts they have to make, enormous pressure. So, two things I want to say on this. Number one, if you are not in middle management, and so you are below a middle manager, you probably need to always be ready. Kind of like when we get on an airplane and they go, all right, in case of an emergency, here are your exits. And I tell you all that. You need to go, you know what? If I was going to be pressed to lead, if I had to step in, what would I need to know? What would I need to do? Always be ready. Always be ready. Back in Revolutionary War times, you may remember learning about this elementary school, but when the British and the Revolutionary War and the British were invading towns, they all throughout New England, they had what they called Minutemen. And these men were ready for battle in a minute. That means everything is ready. I highly suggest that. If you are below a middle manager, in today's environment, they could be gone before lunch. It's an opportunity for you. Or it may be adversity for you. Be ready either way. And then if you are in middle management, listen, you have got to fight for yourself. Don't let yourself become a victim. What you've got to do is you got to go up top and you got to say, I'm feeling the squeeze here. Don't assume they're just going to get rid of you, but they many times don't know because you're afraid to tell them. You need to advocate for yourself. Or if not, you're going to make things even worse for yourself to where you get to a point where you go, no one can do anything about it. It's too late. I've got to go. I think if you are in middle management, you are the people that are in it, in the storm. You know what's going on. And you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for your team and understanding the messaging as you take this up. You're advocating for the company. I think the biggest cause of stress from leaders down to middle managers, and then the middle managers pass it on to everybody else, is blind spots. They don't know what they don't know. Don't assume they know. You got to tell them at middle managers. You got to advocate. Those of you who aren't in management, you got to advocate up. Knowledge is good. So don't sit on it and just try to survive. Life's too short to survive at the office. You need to be thriving. And I hope that helps you. But that's the environment we're in. Be aware. Be prepared.